Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Jersey Ed, along with my two lovely co-hosts, Noontime with Sky and Tiff P. Hi, ladies. How you doing today?
We're doing great.
All right. Well, first and foremost, we'd like to thank Genesis House for their ongoing support of this podcast. Of course, without them, we would have to do this out of our own pockets. So thank you, Genesis House, for sponsoring us. And this week's topic is Step 5, Getting Personal. So stay tuned for some really amazing recovery. And the literature we're going to be using today is I'll be using the Life Recovery Workbook 12 and 12 and Rob Hooper's Spiritual Principle handout that Tiff and I got a couple months ago from Genesis House when we went down there to visit. Tiff is going to be using Emotional Sobriety, the big book. There they are. She's putting up Emotional Sobriety, the big book, and the Life Recovery Workbook. And Sky's our NA girl, and she's going to be using the NA Step Workbook and How and Why. We got a couple sober shout outs here. I know Sky has a bunch of them, so we're going to get right with her to do the sober shout outs. And
okay.
What do you got, Sky?
So I have two awesome Genesis alumni that I'm super proud of. Ernest D with 60 days and Stacy B with 60 days.
All right. Oh, Stacy. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're dropping it like it's hot out there.
I know. What's going on with that?
Like, what do you mean?
I know. So
I was singing Juvenile to Stacy yesterday. Back that ass up.
That's
She's
a good
just
one.
Dropping it. I'm telling you.
That's right. And our lovely Tiffany with her new hairdo, with her real hairdo today.
My real hairdo today.
I know
Carl, I expect you to play Juvenile right there too.
Yeah, there you go.
So I wanted to give a sober shout out to both Nicole and Marie at St. Paul Sober Living. I was able to spend some time with those ladies this week. Of course, St. Paul Sober Living is owned by Chris E. and runs a wonderful group there with a lot of great recovery, greatest sober living community in Minneapolis and St. Paul and outreaching areas. But we were able to start a clothing closet for the ladies at their sober living houses. So that was really awesome. I was really glad to be a part of that. So thanks, Chris, Nicole, Ree, and of course we can't leave out Kyle. We got to talk about the men in the bunch.
Kyle loves his wings over at the organic place, right?
Yeah, wings and fishing. Wings at Revival and lots of fishing.
That's right. So thanks, Tiff. And that was a good job that you did over there with the clothing drive. So I have a couple of sober shout outs. Of course, Sober Pod, who I always listen to. On my runs, I am actually running a half a marathon this weekend. Tiffany is going to be part of it. My wife is going to go. Chris, her husband's going to go, and a bunch of other people that are staying at my house. I think they're going to go. It's early, but we'll figure it out. But I am back to running, so I'm back to listening to Sober Pod. And it's when I really can concentrate on it and listen to it. And Carl and Chelsea are wonderful. Thank you guys for giving us our sober shout outs on the show. And I always fool around. I always say we're the best podcast out there, which we are. I don't fool around with that, but they are definitely a close second. And the other second shout out I want to give is to Dayton Strong Recovery 101. They are very close too. Joe and Addie were talking yesterday about journaling, and I was like, yeah, I want to be on the show. And he texted me, you're ready to go. I wasn't feeling well, so I ended up not going on the show. And I think they were talking some shit about me, but I'm going to listen to the podcast later. So just go over to Dayton Strong Recovery 101 and look for the journaling one, and let me know what was said about me. I have spies out there, guys. So, and one other quick thing, we are looking for some podcast interns. So if you want to do some service work, please email me a resume or why you want to do this at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And we'll look over your resume, and we're not asking for a lot, just some help, like maybe reminding us to push a record button or something along those lines. So
really focusing on digital media, social media, getting our name and our brand recognition out there. So we're someone who can really do that for us and push our stuff.
Yes, that's what we need. And it's service work. It's service work.
It really is.
Yeah. It's going to keep you sober, right?
It's the same as, when we volunteer, like with the different HNIs and stuff like that, the website committees, all the different things, and services inside and outside the fellowship. So
yeah, absolutely. So so just get us that information over. And the other thing too, guys, if you want a sober shout out, please email us at the same email, help@friendsandrecoverypodcast, and we'll get those sober shout outs like we did here, and we'll read them off. I have none this week from the website. Also, quick meeting update, please go to our websites, friendsandrecoverycommunity.org, or genesishouse.net for meeting updates, and all our social media is there. Now, guys, here it is. It's time for the question of the week.
Question of the week.
Bam.
There it is. The question of the week, guys. What have you done recently to overcome your fears? What have you done recently to overcome your fears? Email us or comment below and answer the question of the week. What have you done to overcome your fears? The reason why I picked this question this week pertains to myself, because I'm always running in fear. I'm always running crazy. I'm always thinking of the future, and fear it motivates me, but it also tears me down. So I've been doing a couple other things, the techniques to really, calm me down. A little fear is healthy, guys. It keeps us safe. It keeps us, kind of where we need to be in our lane and understanding and thinking correctly. But a lot of fear is not. And that's where I run. I run on a lot of fear. So today I'm going to start with Skylar, with you to, I just randomly picked that. I don't know why.
Facebook Live suggested to pick me first.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I had a premonition that you already said this, and I just threw it out there.
So this week and a little bit of last week, I've definitely been working on vocalizing my needs more, whether it be boundaries, whether it be asking for help, whether it be sharing where I'm vulnerably at, no matter if I cry, and just not saving my face and my ass at the same time.
Sure.
It's like, you can't do that. So
working on those fears, asking for help, right?
Yeah,
right. That's right.
I have a big struggle with that too.
What is your fears that you recently want to overcome, or how did you overcome them, Tiff?
Well, I was talking about earlier when we tried this once before that I have a fear of heights. And we recently, over the last several months, my daughter moved to Phoenix. And so we took a trip to the Grand Canyon. And they really wanted to go over this. There's a glass bridge that goes out over the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. So, but I
Wow,
did go
that's
to the Grand
cool.
Canyon. I know, that's my second phase of this fear. So
There's
I
levels
have
to this shit.
yes, like my legs turn to jello, right? I
Yeah.
normally can't even walk up to an actual railing and look over, down somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was able to walk over up to the railings. I was able to set my mom brain aside because my daughter wanted to climb out onto some ledges and some cliffs. And as I had to separate myself while she did that, and I had to stop from hollering, Cam, I was just hollering. But anyway, Chris was like, let your daughter be. And so Chris talked me into climbing down on one of these ledges, and he took pictures of me way far out on one. I went way up to the edge, no railing, and just really overcame that fear. And so next time when we go, I want to be able to walk out on that glass bridge where it's, you can, it looks or appears as if it's open below. But that's been a big, huge fear. So that was, and it was one of my fears on my inventory list. So obviously all those prayers about it worked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's amazing when we push through our fears and we get to the other side, it's really not a big deal, right? Because it's all in our heads, all those fears are in our heads that we have to push to the other side, and once we get over it and now you're okay with it. I mean, is it scary? Of course it is, but you did it. One of my things right now, recently, what I've done, we're buying and selling a house at the same time, and we've sold a house last year, and I don't like change, right? I don't like change. I like things to stay. I would have stayed in my mother's house for the rest of my life if I could have, right? But there's no growth there. It's serious, right? I would still have my little captain's bed and little captain's light on the thing. But recovery has taught me differently. I have to grow. I have to get out of my comfort zone and grow. So that's what I'm bringing into this. But there's still fear behind it, guys. There's still a lot of like the unknown, like, is the loan going to go through? Are the people going to have the money? Or, when is the furniture going to be delivered? The U-Haul guys or the moving people. There's a lot of uncertainty. So my life is very uncertain right now, and I have to give my wife credit because she is very strong. Maybe she doesn't show it that she's afraid, but she's very strong, and she's my rock through all this stuff. And I love it because, she definitely gets through it. But what I've done lately is that I've been meditating a lot more. Instead of meditating for 20 minutes, I'm meditating in the morning for about 30, 45 minutes. And then I'm bringing that practice into the day. And when I feel that, that emotion coming on or that future tripping coming on, I'll just bring myself back to the moment. Because I can't control what's going to happen in the future. I can't control that the furniture won't be delivered. It might not be delivered. Who knows? I don't know. I might have to sit on the fucking floor for a week. I don't know.
Your problem might be that it comes early and not late.
That's it. That's the other. Oh, there's another one. Thanks, Guy. Let me put that into the fucking list now. Thanks.
I'm just saying, no matter what we worry,
I know.
something, you know what I mean? It
Exactly. But the reason why and we'll get into to the topic here in a second, but the reason why I brought that up, and I think this is really, really good. If you go back on a couple episodes, I think it was last month when Jeff came on, he said that depression is thinking of the past and anxiety is thinking of the future. So that was another way, guys, when I started thinking, I'm like, well, why is this anxiety coming up? And I thought back to Jeff because I'm thinking about future tripping here. So I'm not much of thinking about the past. I can really give a shit about the past. I mean, I learned from it, but I have this whole anxiety about future tripping. So that was a pretty good, and I identify it, and I kind of move on from it. So anyways, let us know what your guys comment below. What have you done recently to overcome some of your fears? And now, guys, here it is. Everything you've been waiting for. And it feels like we did this twice already. So, but anyways, step 5, admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And I got to tell you, this is getting personal, right? I guess this is our stuff today. I have not completed my 4th step yet. And I made a commitment that I would complete each step every month. And one of the questions in the recovery, the first question in the recovery workbook is, what am I avoiding in step 4 by delaying step 5? That was written for me. Like, I turn to the questions. I like reading these questions, and when we're getting personal, and that fucking question was the first question, right? So I had to do some really soul searching and figuring out, what am I delaying? You know, am I having, do I have time? Am I afraid of my sponsor, what he's going to say? Am I afraid of, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there is definitely some mental block of me not wanting to delay it. And I'm sick this week too, guys. My stomach is killing me. And I believe that's part of the reason why I'm feeling like this, because I've not completed my step 4. I have not made that commitment. I have not taken that step to make myself feel better. And as we all know, when we have mental pain and it turns into physical pain.
Yeah.
And when we're avoiding something, when we're putting something off, it's nice to put it off, but it turns into anxiety or some kind of physical problem in your body. Yeah. So that's where I'm at today. And I don't know why I'm putting it off, but maybe by the end of the show, I'll figure it out. But step 5, admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact natures of our wrongs. What do you ladies have about step 5?
Oh, well, step 5.
What don't we have?
Right?
What don't we have, right? Well, I was reading this new book. It's called Emotional Sobriety, The Next Frontier. And it really made me think about my emotional sobriety and how it relates to step 5. Because this was written by Bill W. This first part of this emotional sobriety. And there's a lot of writings by him in this book, or references in this book to him. And he talks about depression, like you're talking about, and talks about fears, and that we are emotionally reliant on all things. Not, and this isn't everybody, but all things. I find myself in this category. All things, people, places, things for my emotional sobriety and emotional happiness, I should say, not my emotional sobriety. And so I really had to take a look at myself and how this related to my step 5, where we talk about those character defects. I actually went back and looked at my step 5 last night and realized that I do put a lot of weight on my success, the people in my life, really unfair expectations on all of these things. And Bill writes about how dangerous that is for our emotional sobriety long term, because otherwise we're not going to feel that true happiness, that true feeling and sense of security that we get from step 5. So that's another thing to really think about in the step 5, because I really put unfair expectations on people, places, and things, and become totally dependent upon them for my happiness. And I need to really take a new look at that. I really need to take a new look at that before we talk about step 6 next month. Really?
Right? Yeah, because
you're right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, in the emotional, I like what you said, emotional happiness. We can't achieve that until we do these for, step 5 and 4 are cleaning the house and then throwing the garbage out. Like, you can't feel clean, or you can't feel, a sense of accomplishment if you just bag the garbage and leave it in a house and just have shit laying around everywhere. You know what I mean? You got to take that out and get rid of it, Yeah.
And this step is more than just going to another person and dumping all your stuff at them. Bill refers to it as the inability to get off of the emotional merry-go-round.
Yes.
Where you'll continue to circle back to depression, back to anxiety, and you'll keep going over and over and over if you don't look at this step as more than, like I said, just sharing that last column and talking about those things that you need to get out.
Well, we can even take it as this, ladies, is that think of a pile of shit that you have on maybe on your desk at home or on the counter or bills somewhere, and every time you look at it, you get anxiety, right? I mean, I know I do. If I see a pile of stuff and it's like, oh my God, I got to get to that. Oh my God, I got to get to that. I got to get to that. And then once you get to it and you work through it, you pay the bills or you call who you had to call, and that pile is gone, you feel good. That's step 4 and 5. I mean, that's what step 4 and 5 is, you know? And if we keep leaving it there, you're going to get that anxiety. You're going to avoid it. Here's the other thing, guys, shit builds up. So that pile that was this big is now going to be this big. And that's here too, inside. So the shit pile that's inside of me that I haven't got out yet, it's fucking getting added onto, because I'm not taking that step to clear my conscience and then talk to, you know, I can't even admit it to God that I have, you know, that I'm where I'm at this point in my life. You know, I just have a roadblock for some reason. That's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a roadblock. You know, all I got to do is get on the phone and say, Spons, what the fuck is going on with me? And then it'll clear up.
Well, and that's, you know, because there's so many differences in each of us as addicts and alcoholics. I've really, you know, I remember the high and the relief, the sense of relief. And then also the spiritual connection that I had right away after doing my step 5. And I've slowly, after, you know, about 6 months after doing it, been able, like I said, I reflected now back on the last, you know, 2.5 years since I've done it. I've slowly lost, it's like a little piece of that every single day. Yeah. Because I didn't realize how much weight I was putting on other people.
Yeah.
And things to gauge my happiness.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to lose that. I want to get that back. And I really want that spiritual connection, that fullness that I had in the beginning to remain with me, you know, just like to carry it around, just like we carry our coins or little trinkets, or we talked about those rituals last week, you know, things like that.
Well, joy comes within, guys. Not from
money can buy happiness, but can't buy joy.
It can't. And when you're clogged up with all this shit inside, you know, it's hard to get that happiness and that joy out of yourself. You know what I mean? And once we purge this stuff, that's when the joy and happiness comes through. You know what I mean? That's when it, you know, that's when we feel better. And sometimes, you know, sometimes maybe we don't want to feel better. Maybe that's why we delay it, or maybe that's why we don't.
That or denial. Right? I thought that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you know, when we put off the honesty, because you have to have an honesty with yourself to even, you know, because it says one thing it says about step 5, especially, is that not only do we open up and tell the truth about ourselves, we hear the admission in our own lips, breaking the pattern of denial that has plagued us for so long. And like, I think that denial can kind of come back if we don't keep working on it. Like this week, what we all did, the bravery demonstrated not by our lack of fear, but the action we take in spite of our fear. Right. And we talked about things we did this week. And if you guys, anything like me this week, I found out by being honest on that level, we find that few of our actions deserve exaggerated attention, as much as our heads think it, right? Sure. Though our self-disclosure, we feel connected through humanity and like the connection, and perhaps for the first time in our lives.
Well, like, it's funny that you say that connection with humanity, because I really think that I've had another God wink moment where God has put these women in my life recently where I'm volunteering to do the 5 steps, like I've talked about over the last several weeks. And talking about the 5th step on here, think of all of the divine little things that have happened, little interventions to reconnect me to humanity. And then ordering this book, right? That's really putting it all together. And now we're talking about it here today. It's all been a connection to humanity and really focusing on those 12-step calls but in my case, it's really focusing on the 5th step, which is where I've really realized today here with you all.
Yeah.
But this is what I've needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't have recognized that without this connection to humanity with all of you and those women that were in my life, have been recently put into my life.
Absolutely.
And those connections to humanity get us out of ourself.
Yeah.
And back to helping others. And that's where our true happiness is going to come from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, it comes with it from within ourselves. I'm going to ask you, Elise, a question. What's the most powerful word in the world?
The most powerful word in the world?
Yeah. One word.
God.
Yeah. I was going to say God.
God is close. That's the ultimate. Help. To me anyways. I don't know if that's true or not, but think about it. When you're asking for your help, how powerful is that? You're admitting your weaknesses. You're admitting that you want to get better. You're admitting that something's wrong. You're admitting that, that you want to move on, that you don't want to feel like this anymore when you ask for help. When we don't ask for help, what's that TV commercial where that guy has the weights on his chest and the other guy comes up and goes, do you want to help? No, man. Oh, our family doesn't do it that way. We don't ever ask for help. I got this. That's bullshit, right? It's such a great commercial. That really sticks out with me. So that's what that's what 4 and 5 is. We're asking for help to get this shit out of our lives so we can be happy again. I'm not saying that I'm unhappy, I'm upset or whatever, but it just makes room for more happiness. When you fill up a cup, right? When you start pouring stuff in a cup, there's only so much you could put into a cup and still flows over. And if that cup is dirty or shitty, you want to dump that out and you want to put that clean stuff in. Dump out that dirty shit and put in some clean water or clean beverage in that cup. But help. Let me ask for help. And definitely step 4 and 5. Definitely step 5 is the help part. You're asking God and another human being to help me through what I ended up doing and identifying so I can feel better and moving on, so I can feel that joy, and when you don't want to feel that joy, you got to start digging deeper and maybe got to go back to step 3 and figure out, why am I not finishing step 4?
You bring up a great thing to it. Why is it important that we also make the submission to God?
Yeah. And I, because I don't have to rely on this alone, and I get to understand, how much it's his will and not mine, and have that emotional connection for everything. I'm just not alone anymore. And I felt so alone for so long. So that was really important to me.
And it's a spiritual journey we're riding on for a minute here. Like we need them. This isn't an overnight, like quick fix to get rid of all this pain, so super important.
And that's good that you brought that up, Sky, because we're going to go through the steps, each step every month until December, but that's not necessarily how these steps are run. I mean, I'm saying, at the beginning of the show, I said something about, I didn't finish my 4th step, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad thing. It's just that my commitment was that I was trying to, do the step of the month so I can kind of.
It's not your first 4 step. Let's just make that clear.
Exactly. Yeah. It's my first 4 step in a long time now.
And I did the same thing. And I was like, Rob, did I share that? And I did the same thing, but let's be clear. This is his first one.
Yes, exactly.
But we recommitted to this process. Exactly.
Absolutely. So, real quick, I just want to say hello to Jimmy came into the room and Johnny Fencer had to go back. Johnny F had to go back. Chris is here. Hi, Chris. And Tiffany replied, hi, love. Felicia. Felicia says, yay, the Holy Trinity is in the house. That's you guys. We love you, Felicia. And so just if you guys have any comments in the room about your 5th step, or if you have questions about the 5th step, some of these people that are on here now are early. They didn't even get to their 5th step yet. But if you guys have any questions, please ask us. This show is about our personal journey through the 5th step. That's what it is about today. So,
one of the things that I learned through doing my 5th step also is that not only, like we talked about with our fears and having the ability to ask for help, because I wasn't doing that before, but actually furthering my knowledge through not only other people, but adding to it through these books, like that we're talking about, the workbooks, the emotional sobriety, so that I'm focusing on continuing to grow. Like I wasn't all that. I need to understand that the way I was acting and living my life was in it from an emotional level was really at the age, 16, 17, 18 years old. So I have a lot of growth to do. I had a lot of growth.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much from all of you guys who came before me, especially through Bill W. and the big book. But all of those things, after decluttering my life, getting rid of the emotional baggage, it opened up and paved the way for me to learn and really be a sponge from everyone around me, ask for help, and of course, grow even more on a totally different level than I ever have before.
Yeah.
And I'm continuing to grow.
Yeah. Well, that's the question of the week. Last week was like, what age do you feel at? And I like how you brought that up. When I got into recovery, I was 28 years old, but when I started using, I was 13. So somewhere in there, my mind died, my body died, my everything died. And
emotional development.
Yeah, my emotional development died. And that's why I think when I answered that question last week, that I was like a 20-year-old with my brain, because I want to fucking read everything. I want to learn everything. I want to take every class I can take. I want to listen to everybody. I don't want to be the smartest person in a room ever again. I don't. And I always wanted, when I was drinking, I know where to buy the drugs. I know how to get the beer. I know where we can steal from. I knew all that stuff. Everybody came to me for that. I want to come to people so I can grow and I can learn today. And that's what this step tells us to do. That's what this step reminds me, that clear the shit out. Know that you're not that bad piece of shit person that you think you are, that we're not bad people getting good. We're sick people getting well. And this is one of the ways we get well, is these steps. And especially these two steps. This is where health and wellness comes into the steps right here. Yeah. And then we can move on to the harder things that we have to do. In
and then we don't have to keep doing it too after this point, when we get to get through this, and then we can look back, in other words, once we get through this shit, right, we don't have to keep looking at that shit over and over again.
No.
And then when the shit resurfaces, it'll come up in your 10-step or daily inventory, and you share it to your sponsor. She's going to be like, we talked about this in this step 4. I just started to read a part in the book, and I started tearing up because it literally felt how I felt this week when I shared at my home group crying, when it said, looking at and sharing the exact nature of our wrongs is not likely to be comfortable activity. We have looked back and seen how repeating the same patterns over and over again has kept us stuck in the same place. And we haven't seen we haven't just seen the surface behavior. We've seen the defects of character that have been blinded behind our behaviors all along. And, that's what we got to keep seeing, is this character defects are pointed out to us, and then we can work through it. And then when they resurface, we take an inventory, we check it, and,
it doesn't have to build up again. It doesn't, it doesn't have to build up.
And that's why I say too, that I had more of the educational variety spiritually, right? I had a spiritual awakening versus the spiritual experience, right? I didn't have that big bright white light that came to me and said, okay, everything is fixed, like some people have. I'm more of that spiritual awakening. And like I said, I just had it last night, which now that we are talking together as the 3 of us and the Facebook Live group, it's all based on, my mind probably started thinking based on that question last week. Because I feel like I'm 60, like an old soul, like you talked about, Sky, like I've had a lot of life experiences, but really emotionally, that emotional sobriety comes from when I started drinking, when I started using, and I didn't cater to that. I missed that after my 5th step. So I'm glad there's people that haven't done their 5th step yet, that are on this group. Because you have the ability now to listen to us and our experiences and saying, yeah, it was great. I alleviated all my baggage. I got to talk about my life. I got to move forward. But now looking back at it, there was more to it.
Yes,
I had
'cause
to look at my
Yeah.
emotional
we clear space,
sobriety.
but then we're addicts. We buy more shit.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Right.
emotional piece,
You know, we have to be conscious
emotional
of
sobriety,
clearing shit
emotional
out before
happiness.
we buy the new shit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and when you
absolutely.
start feeling that little twinge where things start to change or start to shift in your sobriety, where you start feeling, there's a little piece missing again. There's a little piece missing. I'm not feeling quite as good as I did last week.
Yeah.
That's when you know there's some more questions
That's
to
right.
ask. There's
That's
more
right.
development.
Mhm.
There's
Dig
new
deeper.
things to
Yeah.
add on.
Ladies, I want to go to the chat room here. Chris K writes, this step really reminds me of confession, which it does. And I'm going to read this in a second. But when I converted to Catholicism,
Catholicism.
confession changed my life. It does change your life, just as a normie's point of view. So Chris, I would like to add to that from the Life Recovery Workbook. At the beginning of step 5, it says, as Christians, we can recognize that step 5 comes from the ancient church discipline called confession. James 5:16 says, confess your sins to each other so that they may be healed. We are not meant to keep secrets, even about our most shameful acts. And that's true. That is true. See, we as addicts and alcoholics, we don't understand that. We have to have these steps in our lives. But, you know, the normies, as Chris said, they go to confession. They have what they have to do. And let me tell you, I can't tell you how many times I went to confession and just blew it out and went to find a fucking drug dealer or the bar or the drink, you know? So there was something missing in my life, and it was the steps, obviously, where the normie people, they don't leave the confessional and go find a fucking hooker or a bottle of fucking booze or a pocket full of cocaine. You know, you do your confession and you're done. You know, that's not.
And you feel good about it.
And you feel
Chris
good
always
about
tells
it.
me how he feels good about it and like lives a better life after. It goes on, Ed. Here's what I like after what you just read.
Yep.
It says, we are not meant to keep secrets, like you said, even about our most shameful acts. God calls us to be connected, to bear one another's burdens, and to open the eyes of our hearts. Addiction is in opposition of God's design because it thrives on secrets, sneaking, hiding drinks, hits, or partners, like you just talked about. Because we would walk out of there, you know, as addicts, and our addiction and our addicted brain thrives on those secrets. That's why we have those gut reactions to still lie, to do whatever. But now we have tools, you know, in place to not do those things, where we can recognize.
And if you want to read more about that, that's in Life Recovery. That's page 42. It's the beginning. And that is amazing, that first paragraph. And it just keeps going on. You want to read the rest of that paragraph, Tiff?
Sure. It says, our first reaction to admitting to God, to ourselves, and to another human being is defensiveness and fear. We may decide that since we can see our own faults through the 4-step inventory and God knows it all anyway, we don't have to be vulnerable to another person. And, you know, that's our pride and ego that are blocking our spiritual growth, is what it says.
That's what it says in that step. But then I have it says, such pride and ego block our spiritual growth and keep us at a distance from God and others. Here's the part that I like. Knowledge and understanding alone will never result in recovery. Knowledge and understanding alone will never result in recovery. That means I have to do the work. That means I have to get down to the nitty gritty. That means I have to do a search and fearless moral inventory of myself, like it said in the step before, and then confess it to another human being. I just can't write it down. I just can't read the steps and think I'm going to be cured. There's no way that I can do that. So that's so important, where we have to admit to God, of course, to ourselves. I mean, admitting to myself isn't bad. I just buried a little bit deeper, but that's how it comes out when we admit
the
to
other
God.
Human being.
The other human being. That's how it's pulled out, and that's when it goes away, and that's when that joy lives inside of us again.
Because otherwise, it says, and this is me, and I know Sky, we've talked about this. I will continue to live in isolation, a protected space. Recovery efforts will be easily sabotaged. I'm the queen of self-sabotage. So this 5th step really helps us get rid of that destructive behavior, gets rid of that fear, helps us overcome that fear of being with another person, right? And it says, it is easy to keep the veil over our eyes and the eyes of others as we remain in the shadows of denial. Our pride and shame become more ingrained when we avoid facing up to our actions or claiming who we really are. And I like the part about claiming who we really are, because that was my whole goal in the beginning. I didn't know who I was when I came into recovery.
And honestly, I think that's why I get so teared up sometimes in this step, because I was really good at hiding for a while with this, because like, I don't know if you guys are anything like this addict, but like they say, act as if, fake it till you make it. I was great at that. Like, my friend Siobhan always talks about that. And she's so right. Like, and, I was good at following y'all and I would watch y'all reactions. I would listen to what you guys would respond with, all that. And then I would go home and I would be in pain. And then I would finally call my sponsor in fetal position and be like, blah, 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 and I would just, so that's why I say it was my pattern for a really long time. So for me to ask,
even in recovery, right, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Even in recovery, because I will do that too. I will start going into that mode of, okay, well, I'm just going to talk about what I really know, because I'm good at putting, acting as if.
Versus like, I don't know what the fuck I'm about to share right now. And I don't even know where my head's at. Like, I love when people share that freely, because like, I'm such an orchestrator in my head. I've already got like the whole fucking share planned out. But when they're just like, no one was sharing, so I was just going to share. And I'm just like, I fucking love her. I just want to talk to her.
Because I don't like being that vulnerable, where I'm just that raw. But sometimes I get that way. That's usually like when I come in and say, okay, guys, I really have to share again. Like I did last Friday with you and Rob and the group. Okay, here's where I'm really at. I really have to tell you the truth. Call me out on my shit, because I will isolate, I will hide, I will avoid, I will ignore. And I only can avoid you guys for so long, Well,
so and sometimes I need that practice though, where like you said, to first say it, because sometimes I don't know how it's going to sound. And sometimes I have diarrhea of the mouth and I say things I shouldn't say on the floor. And they say that in the sense because I'm not thinking, I'm emotional, I'm distraught, I'm just like talking crazy, in the moment. And I have to think about it and just let a little out so I can like, not
That's what I love about our Friends in Recovery community, is that we do have some crosstalk. We do have the ability to share more than once, the double dipping. It gives me the ability to get a little bit out. Like you said, I can make some notes about myself and, to get rid of that diarrhea of the mouth. I write some of the things down where I'm really at. It's again, another form of journaling, another form of journaling. And then I can share that.
Guys, I want to just read the spiritual principle of the step is integrity, right? How cool is integrity? Like what we're talking about is that now we're admitting all this stuff and we have integrity now, that somebody is that we're caring about ourselves. And integrity, it says soundness, adherence to a code of values, right? Adherence to a code of values, being sincerity, honesty, and candor and completeness. That's what integrity in this step means, and adhering to a code of values. I never did that before, right? And all this talk that we're having and all this kind of emotional stuff that we're talking about and the honesty, that's integrity, guys. That's what this step does for us. That's what step 5 brings us to, the integrity of who we are today versus the shitheads that we were. No, I shouldn't say we were, that I was all those years ago. So the integrity piece is so important, and the values of the adherence to some values in our lives, because it was never there. Again, I just told you I was going to confession and I was going out and fucking meeting a drug dealer. There was no value in that. And once I walked out of that confessional, there was no value to that, right? There's zero.
So Jimmy has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, now my question is this: what happens when you have cleaned out your closet, made all the amends you can, feel pretty good about it, but someone will not let you forget it and keeps throwing it in your face? What do you think? So that's really a step 9 after, making amends. But you've, like you said, you've cleaned out your closet. So you get the first, sort of boost of confidence that you can get rid of all that weight you were carrying and work on your amends. But if you've actually made your amends and someone keeps throwing it in your face, I'm going to read you the line before the promises start. Give me a moment while I find that. Okay, so the promises are found on page 83. And it says, as God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. And so if we've made a thorough amends and someone continues to bring things up or throw them in your face, remember, we have the ability to look them in the eye now and establish boundaries like Sky was talking about earlier. We've talked about this and you've told me that it was over when we talked about it originally. And so I don't think there's anything more we need to talk about, or you have to be able to establish some boundaries. And if they keep throwing it in your face, you don't have to continue to talk to them, to listen to them. I don't know how they're throwing it, via text, via voicemail, in person. Those are things that we can set boundaries, and sometimes we need to eliminate people from our life.
That's the other thing too. Yeah. But the other thing too is we also have to look at how bad did we hurt these people?
Yeah.
What did we do?
How long is your mouth matching your feet?
Exactly.
Like a month.
Exactly. So there has to be emotional healing
Realistic.
from both sides also. Yeah. But like you said, Tiff, if we don't set our boundaries, set up, how we're feeling, it's okay to tell the other person how you're feeling when they're telling you something else that you don't want to hear, and are you doing a lot of hard work? Yeah, I did a lot of hard work, but people still threw shit in my face and told me, like, oh, you're not a good father. You're not a good this. And then that's where either I have to cut those people out of my life, like you said, or it's none of my fucking business what other people think of me. Right?
Yes.
It's none of my business what other people think of me. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And that's where the control comes in. But I get it, like shit being thrown in your face. I had a lot of that in early recovery, and that sucks, man, because you don't know what to do with it. Do you punch them? Do you love them? Do you, kick them in the ass? What do you do?
How many coping tools do you have in super early recovery? You know what I mean? Like that's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
You have to rely on your sponsor, your support network, your meetings, and sometimes we do have to just listen. We do have to just listen and take it, but not if it's going to affect your sobriety. That's when you need to set those healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
And like Ed said, it's none of our business what other people are thinking about us. And they can continue to think those things. But I also have given advice to people where you can have those canned responses, either on a note card, that you carry in your wallet, or a piece of paper you carry in your wallet, on your phone, whatever, where you say, like I said, I thought we've already put this to bed. I've given you an opportunity to talk about it. If you feel like you have more to say, we can set up a time to do that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. But we're not going to be negative. I want this to be productive or whatever.
I like that. Yeah. Because sometimes I think I've set
boundaries.
Like sometimes I'm sure I know I've accepted apologies sometimes and I wasn't even ready, but it was just like, I needed more time to even process it, or I didn't, things happen. And sometimes you do have to revisit the issue and talk about it. Absolutely. But a time, place, and energy around that.
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
I love that.
We are allowed to take a time out and say that, let's set up a time where we can discuss this further so this doesn't keep coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And is the other person getting help too? I don't care if it's a family, if it's a husband, wife, if it's employer, employee, the whole system is broke, not just the addict themselves. There's a reason why those other people stuck around, paid my bills, gave me money when they knew I was using for alcohol and drugs. They gave me gas money. They did this. They stuck. There was a reason why they stuck around. And that reason we have to figure that out too and let them heal. Are they getting help too? That's a great question, Jim. And I came up on an early recovery, no doubt about it.
And I think it's super important to say also to those people, I understand that I've hurt you.
Yes.
I understand that I have hurt you. I understand that I've crossed a lot of lines.
Yeah.
You know, but and I do want to talk about this. I thought it was over, but if there's more to discuss, we can do it, you know, at a healthy time and place. Yeah. It's okay to say that.
Yeah. And just exactly what you read at the beginning of the steps, at the beginning of the promises. That's
yes.
You know, that's read that again. Read that again.
So it's the line before the promises found on page 83. Let me go back there. And it says, as God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone.
That's right.
And again, now this is, you know, as we're getting through the steps, that's what it says to us, that we're able to look people in the eye after that step 9. That comes right after, it's right in the beginning of step 10, where, you know, those promises start being read. But that's like basically the end of step 9. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We crawl before no one. Yeah. And, you know, that's where the integrity comes back, because as we finish step 5, the integrity comes back, and we don't have to kneel. We don't have to crawl. We don't have to grovel to people anymore. Because that's what, I want to say, that's what I did. I don't want to say everybody, but I know I did that for a long time. I always was that people pleaser. I groveled.
Took more than you probably deserved.
Yeah. I'll break my arm so you don't have to break yours, or I'll give my blood so you don't have to give yours. That's bullshit. You know, that's bullshit. Yeah. Take care of me. Take care of me. You know, sure. I know it's a we program, but this we program takes care of I. That's what this we program does. You all take care of me. If we all
didn't take care of ourselves, like who would be left in the program?
That's right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Real quick, I want to say hi to Camden Kathy. She finally figured out how to come on here. Usually her comments come on later on in the show or when we're off, but Camden Kathy is on here. We love you, Camden Kathy. Welcome.
But so courage too is a huge part of this. Like, the courage and the commitment, because we have to continue to keep doing it, you know?
Yeah.
I like that you brought that up, because the next question I was going to ask as referring to the 5th step, what interferes with my being honest about myself? What interferes with my being honest about myself?
Are you asking that because of me, Tiff?
No.
Where's my phone? I need to call my sponsor. I think she's talking about me.
Not just that, like I had to do my 5th step twice early on. And so I have an answer written in there. And my answer is that there were a few things, mostly about myself, resentment toward myself, that I thought that I could take to the grave with no one ever knowing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like doing the 5th step with those ladies in 2 days, so that they can come back and say, well, here's what I've never told anyone.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and that's where that'll come up, where, you know, we're still not feeling complete. We're like, how come I'm not feeling that joy? You said on that podcast, if you do step 4 and 5, you're going to feel joy. Well, let's go back over go back over the 5th step, go back over it again and realize it, you know, maybe you have to write more on your 4th step, and then go do your 5th step again, because you should feel that joy. I know I did all those years ago when I did my 5th step, and, you know, and I know how I felt, but I don't know why I'm just delaying it. I just don't know why. There's some reason, and more to be revealed. But you know, that's what we have to do. And you're so right. Doing a 5th step, I don't think we should just do it once. I think we should just maybe, like you said, set those 2 days aside and redo it again. Absolutely.
Well, or really be prepared. Like, listen to the people like us that are saying, just get it all out. Talk about everything, right? Talk about it thoroughly. Think about it thoroughly before you go in there the night before. Like, what do I not want anyone to know? Or do I think I can take to the grave? And do it once the right way. If you only have the opportunity to do it once, because there was one of the things, one of my examples that I thought that I could take to the grave, and I'm not going to tell all my examples, because I'm not going to put that out on YouTube for the rest of my life. Hear it. Yeah. But I will be honest and say that as a mom, I left my child home alone to go to the liquor store. And was the liquor store across the street? Yes. But the fact of the matter is, so many things could have happened while I was gone. Even though that child was sleeping, even though what if the house would have started on fire? What if I would have got pulled over and got a DWI? What if there's all these what ifs that, could have, all these things that could have happened.
Yeah.
But it's if those what ifs are real for some.
Yes.
Right?
And they have happened.
I used to write people that did vehicular homicide, mothers that did, got pulled over, and those things. So if we got out of them, like, it's kind of like, be grateful, like use that as like what you're doing, the knowledge of what really could have went wrong there, because we're really lucky it didn't, like, beyond blessed.
And I want to be open enough to put that out there for people to know that mothers, husband, fathers who have done those things, it's okay to share that with another person. You're not alone.
Yeah,
I did
absolutely
it.
not.
Exactly.
Get it on
I did it.
Fifth step. Yeah.
I had driven drunk while I had my kids in the car. There are a lot of things that I did. And those are some of the examples of, there's 4 specific things that I thought I could take to the grave. And that was one of them.
Well, let's even go a little bit closer to home. Drinking and passing out while your kids are in your house.
Absolutely.
And then they have full reign to the house, and you wake up and you're like, why is my kid pulling my fucking face apart? I mean, I remember that. I remember my son was very young when he was 5 years old, but I remember my ex-wife going and leaving the house and me drinking and passing out, and then her coming home. I'm like, yeah, everything's okay. I'm like, I'm looking around like, is this fucking house still standing? So yes, absolutely. That is the stuff that we have to really get out, because that's what'll eat us up inside and kill us. The secrets, just like we read at the beginning of this, the secrets are will kill us. God's design, because it thrives. Addiction is in opposition to God's design because it thrives on secrets, sneaking and hiding, drinks, hits, and partners.
Yes,
right there.
And that's the stuff that I was putting Chris through. The man that has stood by me, helped me through my addiction, helped me through recovery, who supports me today. One of his biggest fears, and he shared this on his story when he shares with loved ones, is his biggest fear was me passing out. And I put him through that, daily, on a daily basis with our kids. So.
Absolutely. So guys, we well, believe me, I got 1,000 other questions here, but I think we're going to end it here. Let's keep everybody wanting more, but but does anybody have anything in closing before we do go? I'll give everybody one last shot, either in the chat, in the Facebook Live, if you want to say something there, or ladies, is any follow-up or anything you want to give advice as far as a chapter, because this is the last show. Next week is going to be our tradition show. So
Jimmy says, thank you for the feedback. Jordan says, always love your honesty and transparency that the group shares. And then there's another one from Jimmy that says, in younger years, I volunteered with fire department when one night we went to the scene of an accident. A mother and daughter were in a car accident. The mother was drunk. The daughter was decapitated on impact, and the mother was charged with DUI and vehicular homicide. And see, that's how real that this shit is, right?
Yeah.
And we carry this guilt and shame. And that's why I feel like, we get to examine ourselves. We get to get rid of, we gain the freedom to speak the truth, right? And that freedom comes through this confession that we do. Like Chris called it a confession. It's much like a confession. We gain a lot of freedom and we get to speak the truth. And then going forward, we get to be truthful on a regular basis. It's just really a life-changing event, this 5th step.
Absolutely.
And this is huge. And it's huge with, like the word you said, emotional recovery. What I mean? Because that's where, we could leave the kids in the house and make some dumb decisions if we're clean and sober,
Yeah.
if we're not realizing the disease and the way it can manifest in other ways. So that
Yes.
emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah. Which brings us to the, like you said, to the emotional happiness. And that's what we're
Exactly.
striving for, is the joy and the happiness,
Mhm.
emotionally, physically, because then we're not tired, we're not sick, we're not upset. And once we can clear all that out, and once we finish step 5, with all, admitting to everybody, you have that emotional, kind of let go, and you're clean
Relief,
again.
yeah.
Exactly. So
And the importance I would really emphasize on here is sharing face to face with another human being.
mhm.
Yeah.
This is not a step we can do alone as much as we
Nope.
want to, because that's our natural thing, is to isolate and think that we can carry this between us and God. And it's
Can't.
really not fruitful if we do.
No, it says in a book. So, well, ladies, great show. Looking forward to our next show. Of course, it's going to be the tradition. So stay tuned for that. The other thing, everybody out there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share these podcasts. It's really important to us, so we can get our viewers are growing. Everything's growing. It's because of you guys doing this, and of course, us doing the work here. But another great show, and stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.